I thought I was living the dream, retired in Thailand with a beautiful girlfriend who loved to cook for me. Turns out she was cooking all right, just not for me. Every morning I'd leave for my visa runs and errands, and she'd transform my kitchen into a film set. For 6 months, thousands of strangers watched her make pad thai and som tam in my house, calling her their sweet Thai girlfriend, while she racked up sponsorship deals I never knew existed. I was funding her rise to internet fame with my pension, and I was the only one who didn't know she existed online. When I finally discovered the truth, I realized I wasn't her boyfriend. I was just the landlord of her content studio. If stories like this help you navigate expat life, please like this video and tell us in the comments what country you're watching from. This story comes from one of our community members who wanted to share his experience as a warning to other expats living in Southeast Asia. I'd been dreaming of this moment for 37 years, standing in my own kitchen in Pattaya, watching Sirilawan chop vegetables with the precision of a master chef. I felt like the luckiest man alive. At 67, after decades of fixing engines in Novra and saving every penny I could, I'd finally made it to my retirement paradise. The house was modest, 2 bedrooms, open-plan living, and a kitchen that faced the small garden where frangipani trees dropped their sweet-smelling flowers. But it was mine, and more importantly, it was ours. "You hungry, my love?" Sirilawan asked, glancing up from her cutting board with those dark eyes that had first caught my attention at the local market 3 months earlier. She was 29, beautiful in that effortless way Thai women seem to master. With long black hair she always kept tied back while cooking. "I make you something special today." "You always make me something special," I said, wrapping my arms around her waist. From behind, she smelled like lemongrass and jasmine, and I breathed it in like a man who'd been drowning and finally found air. "I still can't believe you moved in with an old fool like me." "You not old fool," she laughed, that musical sound that made my chest tight with happiness. "You good man. You take care of me. I take care of you. This is how it should be." I'd met her 6 months after moving to Thailand, when I was still figuring out which vegetables were which at the Tukkom market. She was buying ingredients I'd never seen before: exotic herbs, specialty sauces, imported spices that cost more than I used to spend on groceries in a week back home. She noticed my confusion trying to communicate with the vendor and stepped in, translating and explaining what everything was for. "You like Thai food?" she'd asked in careful English. "Love it," I'd replied, "but I can barely make toast without burning it." That laugh again. "Maybe I teach you sometime." 3 weeks later, she was cooking dinner in my kitchen. 3 months after that, she'd moved in completely. Her clothes hung next to mine, her skincare products lined my bathroom counter, and every evening when I came home from my daily errands, the most incredible smells would greet me at the door. "Today I make gang som with fish," she said now, pulling ingredients from the refrigerator I'd recently upgraded to accommodate all her culinary adventures. "My grandmother recipe. Very special." I watched her work, mesmerized by the way she moved around the kitchen like she'd been born there. She knew where every pot, every spice, every utensil belonged better than I did, even though it was my house. Sometimes I felt like I was the guest in my own home, but it was the kind of feeling that made me grateful rather than resentful. After years of microwave dinners and lonely evenings in Australia, coming home to this, to her, felt like winning the lottery. "I need to run to immigration tomorrow morning," I told her, settling into the chair where I'd taken to watching her cook. It had become my favorite spot in the house. "Visa stuff, probably be gone most of the day." "Okay, darling, I stay here, maybe practice some new recipe." She smiled that sweet smile that made me forget I was old enough to be her father. "You come home to surprise." I should have paid more attention to that smile. Should have wondered why she always seemed so pleased when I mentioned my daily departures. Should have questioned why someone who claimed to have never cooked professionally needed so much practice. But I was drunk on happiness, on the impossible luck of finding love in my golden years, on the simple pleasure of being wanted by someone so young and beautiful and talented. The retirement I'd planned for myself involved fishing, reading, maybe, learning some basic Thai. Instead, I found myself living in what felt like a cooking show, with elaborate meals appearing like magic while I was out navigating the bureaucratic maze that comes with being a foreign retiree in Thailand. Every day brought new adventures in paperwork, visa requirements and errands that seemed designed to consume entire afternoons. My broken Thai turned simple tasks into epic journeys, but I didn't mind. It meant more time for Sirilawan to work. Her culinary magic, and coming home to her felt like returning to a five-star restaurant where the chef was also the woman who shared my bed. My days had settled into a rhythm that felt sustainable and peaceful. Every morning at 8, I'd leave for whatever bureaucratic adventure awaited. Visa extensions at immigration, banking paperwork that required original documents and photocopies, and signatures from officials who spoke as little English as I spoke Thai. Shopping trips that turned into cultural expeditions as I tried to navigate markets and grocery stores where I recognized maybe half the products. "Good morning, my love," Sirilawan would say, already dressed and moving around the kitchen with purpose. "You have everything? Passport, papers?" "Think so," I'd reply, kissing her cheek as she organized ingredients on the counter. "What's the plan today?" "Maybe I'd try make khao soi. Very difficult, need many hours." She'd pause her preparations to hand me my coffee, prepared exactly how I liked it. Strong, with just a splash of condensed milk. "You no worry about lunch. I have everything I need." The immigration office in Pattaya operates on what I'd learned to call Thai time, meaning that a process they tell you will take 2 hours, might take 6, depending on which officials are working, what mood they're in, and whether Mercury is in retrograde. I'd arrive at 9 and sometimes not finish until 3 in the afternoon, then face the additional adventure of grocery shopping with my limited language skills and Sirilawan's increasingly elaborate shopping lists. She'd started asking for specific brands of ingredients, particular types of fish sauce, imported items that required visits to multiple stores. "For authentic taste," she'd explain when I questioned why we needed the expensive coconut milk when the local version seemed identical. "I want make everything perfect for you." I didn't mind the expense or the effort. After 37 years of shift work and overtime, of saving and scrimp and planning for this exact life, what was the point of being cheap now? If my girlfriend wanted to cook with premium ingredients, if she needed the best fish sauce and the finest jasmine rice, then that's what we'd have. I'd worked too hard and waited too long to start counting pennies in paradise. The afternoons were the best part. I'd arrive home exhausted from navigating government offices and markets, and she'd greet me at the door with a cold beer and news of whatever culinary masterpiece she'd spent the day creating. The smells that met me were always incredible, complex, layered aromas that seemed to have been building for hours. "How was your day, darling?" she'd ask, taking my bags and leading me to the kitchen where something amazing was always simmering. "Long, complicated, but worth it to come home to this," I'd reply, settling into what had become my chair, positioned perfectly to watch her work while staying out of her way. "Today I make genkeao one. Take me 6 hours, but I think you like." She'd move around the kitchen with the confidence of someone who'd been cooking professionally for years, adjusting seasonings, stirring multiple pots, presenting dishes that belonged in the finest Thai restaurants. I should have wondered how someone learned to cook with such precision and artistry. Should have questioned why every meal looked like it could be photographed for a cookbook. Should have been curious about where she'd developed such sophisticated techniques and presentation skills. But I was too busy feeling grateful and amazed and proud that this incredible woman had chosen to share her talents with me. The evenings were perfect. We'd eat her creations while she explained the history of each dish, the regional variations, the family stories behind her grandmother's recipes. She was a natural storyteller, painting pictures of her childhood in northern Thailand, her family's cooking traditions, her dreams of maybe opening a small restaurant someday. "Maybe we could do that together," I'd suggested once. "I've got enough savings to invest in a small place." "Oh, darling, that very kind, but I still learning. Need more practice, more time to perfect everything." Her eyes would light up at the possibility, then dim with modesty. "Maybe someday, when I ready." These conversations always happened after we'd finished eating, when we'd move to the small living room, and she'd curl up next to me on the couch, her head on my shoulder, both of us sleepy from good food and contentment. Those moments felt like the reward for every early morning, every difficult year, every sacrifice I'd made to get to this point in my life. But even in paradise, small things start to nag at you. Little inconsistencies that your brain files away even when your heart doesn't want to acknowledge them. Like the kitchen equipment that seemed to multiply when I wasn't looking. I'd come home to find new gadgets, professional-grade tools, expensive appliances that I didn't remember buying. "Where did this come from?" I'd ask, pointing to a commercial-quality food processor or a set of lighting equipment that seemed oddly sophisticated for home cooking. "Oh, I find good deal at market," she'd reply. "For cooking better, make everything more easy." The explanations always made sense individually, but collectively they started to form a picture I wasn't quite ready to see. The ring lights, she claimed, helped her see food colors more accurately. The small cameras, she said, were for documenting recipes to send to her sister in Bangkok. The professional tripods that she needed for better angles when taking photos for memory. "You take a lot of photos," I observed one evening, noticing she'd spent nearly as much time arranging and photographing our dinner as we had eating it. "Thai people love food photos," she laughed. "My friends always want to see what I'm cooking. They say I should be chef." It was cultural, I told myself. Thai people were famous for their food photography, their social media culture, their pride in culinary presentation. I was probably the strange one, coming from a background where food was fuel rather than art, where presentation meant making sure everything fit on the plate. But the nagging feeling grew stronger as the weeks passed. The kitchen started to feel less like our shared space and more like her professional domain. She'd rearrange equipment while I was gone, optimize lighting, create what looked almost like a photography studio that happened to also be where we cooked meals. "Maybe I could help sometime," I suggested. "Learn to make some of these dishes myself." "Oh no, darling. Kitchen very dangerous when I working. You relax, let me take care of everything." Her voice carried a firmness that hadn't been there before, a boundary that felt new and absolute. "This my gift to you. You work so hard your whole life. Now you deserve to be spoiled." The sweetness of her words couldn't quite mask the fact that I was being systematically excluded from my own kitchen. During her cooking meditation time, usually the entire period I was gone during the day, the kitchen became off-limits territory. If I came home early or forgot something and returned unexpectedly, I'd find her in what could only be described as a state of panic, frantically cleaning up equipment and shooing me away. "You early today. I not ready. Still have mess everywhere. Give me 10 minutes, okay?" 10 minutes would turn into 30, and when I was finally allowed back into the kitchen, everything would be spotless and normal, with whatever we were having for dinner ready and waiting as if it had materialized by magic. I started paying attention to our grocery bills, partly out of habit and partly out of growing concern. The numbers didn't make sense. We were spending nearly 30,000 baht a month on ingredients, enough to feed a small restaurant, not a retired mechanic and his girlfriend. When I tried to reconcile the expenses with our actual consumption, the math simply didn't work. "Sirilawan," I said one evening, holding a stack of receipts. "Are you sure we need all these specialty ingredients? This is more than I used to spend on food in 3 months back in Australia." Her face changed in a way I'd never seen before. The easy smile disappeared, replaced by something that looked almost like calculation before settling into hurt disappointment. "You think I spend too much your money?" Her English, usually carefully grammatical, slipped into the pattern she used when she was upset. "You think I greedy woman who just want your money?" "No, that's not. I try make everything perfect. For you. Buy best ingredients, cook authentic food, make you happy like king in your own house. But you count every baht like I am servant, not girlfriend." The tears came then, and I felt like the worst kind of heel. Here was this incredible woman who spent hours every day creating culinary masterpieces for me, and I was nitpicking her. Grocery bills like some kind of cheap bastard. "I'm sorry," I said, setting the receipts aside and pulling her into my arms. "You're right. I'm just not used to living so well. Back home I survived on meat pies and instant coffee. This is all so amazing that it still doesn't feel real. I just want to make you happy," she whispered against my chest. "Want to cook like my grandmother teach me, with good ingredients, with love. Maybe someday I open small restaurant, show other people real Thai food, but for now I only cook for you. That night, we made love with the desperate intensity of a couple who just avoided their first real fight. But even as I held her afterward, even as she fell asleep curled against my side, I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted between us. The easy trust was still there, but it had been joined by something else, a watchfulness, a sense that there were things being measured and calculated that I wasn't quite seeing. Her phone had become a constant presence during our meals, but now I started noticing how she used it. She'd take multiple photos of every dish from different angles, spend long minutes adjusting lighting and repositioning plates, film short videos of herself, explaining preparation techniques. When I asked who she was sharing these with, she'd mention her sister, her friends from Bangkok, her cooking group on Facebook. Thai people very social about food, she'd explain. We like to share, to learn from each other. My friends always asking for recipes, so I show them how everything made. It made sense. Thai food culture was incredibly social and visual. But I started noticing that she guarded her phone screen from me, angling it away when notifications came in, switching to other apps quickly if I happened to glance over. When I tried to look at the photos she'd taken of our dinner, she'd laugh and wave me away. Too boring for you, just food pictures and girl talk with my friends. The phone conversations bothered me more, long discussions in rapid Thai that would stop abruptly when I entered the room. She'd claim they were about cooking techniques, family news, gossip with girlfriends. But the timing was strange, calls that seemed to happen on schedule with an urgency and focus that felt more professional than personal. One afternoon I came home earlier than usual from a visa appointment that had been surprisingly efficient. As I approached the house, I could hear Sirilawan's voice through the kitchen window, not the conversational Thai she used with friends, but something more formal, more practiced. She was speaking in English. Today we make som tam with special papaya from Isaan region. Very important to choose right papaya, not too soft, not too hard. I stood outside my own house, listening to my girlfriend give what sounded like a cooking demonstration to someone I couldn't see. When I entered, through the front door, the talking stopped immediately. "Darling, you home early?" Her voice carried that edge of panic I'd been hearing more often lately. I was practicing English with cooking words for Restaurant Dream, you know? Practicing with who? No one, just talking to myself. Like rehearsal. She was cleaning up what looked like a more elaborate setup than usual. Extra lighting, multiple camera angles, ingredients arranged like a professional cooking show. "You hungry? I make you lunch." That night, I lay awake long after she'd fallen asleep, staring at the ceiling and trying to piece together what felt like fragments of a puzzle I couldn't quite see. The expensive ingredients, the professional equipment, the secretive phone, behavior, the elaborate food photography, the English cooking demonstrations she claimed were just practice. Each piece made sense individually, but together they painted a picture I wasn't ready to confront. I loved her. That was the simple, undeniable truth that made everything else feel negotiable. After years of loneliness, of going to bed alone, and waking up alone, of eating every meal by myself and wondering if anyone would even notice if I disappeared, I had found someone who made me feel alive again. Someone young and beautiful and talented, who had chosen me, who cooked for me, who made my house feel like a home. If she had secrets, if there were things about her life she wasn't sharing, did it really matter as long as we were happy? As long as she was here with me? As long as I came home every day to her smile and her incredible food and her warm body next to mine at night? I wanted to believe that whatever was happening could be explained by cultural differences, by my own paranoia, by the natural adjustment period that comes with any relationship. I wanted to trust her the way I had in the beginning, when everything felt simple and perfect and too good to be true. But as I drifted off to sleep, listening to her quiet breathing beside me, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered the question I wasn't ready to answer. What if it really was too good to be true? The answer came on a Tuesday morning in March, delivered by my neighbor Pete with the casual brutality of someone who doesn't realize they're about to destroy your entire world. "Mate, you didn't tell me your missus was famous," Pete said, appearing at my door with his laptop under his arm, and that grin Australian men get when they think they've discovered something clever. "What do you mean?" "YouTube, mate. She's got a bloody cooking channel. Look at this." He opened his laptop on my kitchen table, the same table where Sirilawan and I ate every meal, where I watched her work her magic, where I'd felt happier than I had in decades. The screen showed a YouTube page called Lawan's Traditional Thai Kitchen, with a profile photo that made my chest go cold. It was Sirilawan, but not the Sirilawan I knew. This version was posed professionally, smiling at the camera with the practiced warmth of someone who did this for a living. The channel had 250,000 subscribers. "Pete," I said slowly, my voice sounding strange in my own ears. "This can't be right." "Course it's right. Look, here's yesterday's episode." He clicked on a video titled, "Authentic Som Tam the Way My Grandmother Made It." The thumbnail showed my kitchen, my fucking kitchen, with Sirilawan in the exact outfit she'd worn the day before. I watched myself disappear from existence. The video opened with Sirilawan standing in front of my stove, my pots and pans and utensils arranged around her like a professional cooking show set. She spoke directly to the camera in fluent English, explaining the history of papaya salad, the importance of using traditional techniques, the regional variations that made each version special. "Hello, my beautiful viewers," she said with that radiant smile I thought belonged to me. "Welcome back to my kitchen. My kitchen. My fucking kitchen. Today I'm going to share with you my grandmother's secret recipe for som tam, passed down through generations of women in my family. This is comfort food, love food, the taste of home." There was no mention of a boyfriend, no acknowledgement that she was cooking in someone else's house, using someone else's groceries, paying for utilities and rent with someone else's money. She presented herself as a single woman living independently, sharing authentic recipes from her own traditional Thai kitchen. "She's got millions of views, mate," Pete was saying, but his voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Sponsorship deals, merchandise, the whole thing. Must be making a fortune." I scrolled through video after video, going back months. 6 months to be exact, right to the week after she moved in with me. Every single one filmed in my house, featuring my kitchen, using ingredients I'd paid for, utilities I'd funded, equipment I'd unknowingly subsidized. The channel bio read, "Traditional Thai cooking with modern techniques shared from my home kitchen in Thailand, supporting young women's independence through authentic cultural exchange. Supporting young women's independence with my money." In my house, while I ran errands and visa appointments and grocery shopping for ingredients that were feeding a business I knew nothing about. "You all right, mate?" Pete asked. "You've gone a bit white." I clicked on the most recent video, uploaded, the day before. I watched Sirilawan use my kitchen, my utensils, my ingredients to create a masterpiece of green curry while speaking to the camera like she was talking to intimate friends. "Cooking is about more than just food," she said, stirring coconut milk with a wooden spoon I'd bought at the local market. "It's about creating connection, sharing culture, building community. When I cook these traditional dishes, I feel connected to my grandmother, to my heritage, to all of you beautiful people watching." The comments were full of praise, admiration, requests for more recipes, people calling her inspiring, authentic, beautiful. Men, Western men mostly, talking about how lucky her future husband would be, how they wished they could find a traditional Thai woman like her. "She's single, right?" one comment read. "Any woman who can cook like this and looks like that should have men lining up." "Traditional Thai women make the best wives," another replied. "Wish I could find one like her." I closed the laptop before I could read more. My hands were shaking, and I could feel something cold and heavy settling in my chest like a physical weight. "Thanks, Pete," I managed to say. I need to think about this." "Sure, mate. Probably just a misunderstanding, right? Maybe." She was going to tell you about it. After Pete left, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the closed laptop. Around me, the evidence of Sirilawan's deception was everywhere once I knew what to look for. The professional lighting she'd positioned to look casual. The camera angles that captured the best views of the cooking area. the way she'd systematically arranged our shared space to serve as her private film studio. Every morning I'd kissed her goodbye and walked out the door of what I thought was our home. Every morning she'd waited for me to leave, then transformed our kitchen into a stage where she performed the role of an independent single woman for hundreds of thousands of strangers. Every evening I'd come home to elaborate meals and felt grateful that this incredible woman had chosen to share her talents with me. Never realizing that I wasn't her boyfriend, I was her unwitting business partner, funding her rise to internet fame while she presented herself to the world as available and alone. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was financial, professional, existential. She'd built an empire on the foundation of my retirement savings, my house, my utilities, my belief that we were building a life together. Every ingredient I'd paid, for every bill I'd covered, every moment of privacy I'd given up, had been feeding a machine designed to profit from my absence. I thought about all the times I'd offered to help in the kitchen, all the times she'd redirected me, kept me away. During her cooking meditation time, I thought about the mysterious phone calls, the expensive equipment, the professional quality presentations that should have been red flags but felt like gifts. I thought about the men in those comments, talking about how lucky her future husband would be, never knowing that her current boyfriend was sitting alone in his kitchen, funding her performance of availability. The worst part was how good she was at it. The videos were genuinely impressive. Professional quality, engaging content, authentic recipes presented with charm and skill. She had real talent, real knowledge, real charisma. She could have built this business honestly, with my support and partnership, sharing our life together instead of erasing me from it. Instead, she'd chosen to use me as an invisible sponsor for a fantasy version of herself, a version where she was single, independent, available, and authentic. Cooking traditional recipes in her own kitchen, supported by her own hard work, building her own success. When I heard her key in the lock that evening, I was still sitting at the kitchen table with Pete's laptop open in front of me. She walked in with her usual bright smile, groceries in hand, ready to begin another day's performance. "Hello, my love," she called from the entryway. "I buy ingredients for Massaman curry. Take long time to make properly, but I think you—" She stopped when she saw the laptop, saw her own face on the screen, saw the YouTube page that had been hidden from me for 6 months. For a moment, her mask slipped completely, and I saw something I'd never seen before in her eyes. Not guilt, not shame, calculation. "Maxwell," she said carefully, setting the groceries down. "I can explain." "Can you?" I asked, and my voice sounded strange and distant, like it was coming from someone else. "Can you explain how you've been running a business out of my house for 6 months without telling me? Can you explain how you've been presenting yourself as single while living off my money? Can you explain how every meal you've cooked, every moment we've shared, has been interrupted by you filming content for your secret fucking career?" She moved toward me, and I could see her shifting into the version of herself she used in the videos, practiced, charming, designed to disarm and convince. "Darling, please let me tell you the truth. I wanted to surprise you. I was building this for us, for our future together. The money, everything. It was going to be for both of us. By lying to your audience about being single? That's just business, Maxwell. If people know I have boyfriend, especially Western boyfriend, they think different about me. They not trust that my cooking is authentic, that I'm real Thai woman. It's just for marketing. Doesn't mean anything about my feelings for you." I stared at her, this woman I'd thought I knew, and realized I was looking at a complete stranger. Someone who could live a double life for months, who could use my love and trust and money to build a career based on erasing my existence. "How much money have you made? That's not important. How much fucking money have you made using my house, my utilities, my groceries, my life?" She was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice had changed. Less pleading, more matter of fact. More like the businesswoman I was just beginning to understand she'd always been. "About 200,000 baht per month. But Maxwell, this is good for both of us. This money, it can help us buy bigger house, start restaurant, have real future. Together. 200,000 baht. More than my pension. More than I'd ever made in a month during my working years. She'd been earning a fortune while I worried about grocery bills, while I stretched my retirement savings to accommodate her expensive ingredient requests, while I felt guilty for questioning the costs of supporting what I thought were her hobbies. "You've been making more money than me," I said slowly. "This whole time, while I've been paying for everything, while I've been supporting you, you've been earning more than my pension." "Yes, and your audience thinks you're single. Maxwell, please try to understand. And you've been filming in my house without my permission, using my resources, presenting my kitchen as your own personal space. It's our house, our kitchen." "No." I stood up, and something in my voice made her take a step back. "It's my house, my kitchen, my money that's been funding your business, and my life that you've been erasing so you can play pretend for strangers on the internet." What followed was the ugliest fight of my adult life. Not just because of the screaming, though there was plenty of that, not just because of the accusations and denials and desperate justifications, but because I watched someone I loved transform into someone I didn't recognize, someone who could justify anything as long as it served their purposes. She cried, she raged, she pleaded, she threatened. She blamed me for not understanding Thai culture, for being a controlling Western man who wanted to hold back a strong, independent woman. She accused me of being cheap, unsupportive, jealous of her success. When none of that worked, she got coldly practical. "You want me to stop? Fine. But then I need money from you every month, same as before. I give up my business, my career, my independence for you, so you take care of me completely. That's not how this works. Or maybe I tell my audience about controlling Western man who try to stop Thai woman from being successful. Maybe I make video about how foreign boyfriend become jealous and possessive when girlfriend become too independent." The threat hung in the air between us like poison. I realized I was looking at someone who had been playing a game I didn't even know existed, someone who was several moves ahead of me and had contingency plans for every possible outcome. "Get out," I said quietly. "This is my home too. I live here 6 months. I contribute to household. I have right to stay. Get out of my house. You can't make me leave. In Thailand, I have rights as tenant, as domestic partner. You want me to go, you have to pay me to go." I spent that night in a hotel, unable to sleep in a house that no longer felt like mine, unable to bear the sight of a kitchen that had been transformed into a stage for someone else's performance. When I returned the next morning, she was gone, but not really. Her things were still there, her equipment was still set up, and there was a note on the kitchen table written in her careful English. "Maxwell, I sorry you so angry. I understand you feel betrayed, but I not leave. This is my home too now, and my business needs stable location. We can work together or we can be roommates, but I not giving up my career for man who don't support my success. Think about what you want more, to be right or to be happy." I looked around my kitchen at the ring lights and cameras and professional equipment that had turned my home into her workplace, at the evidence of a business that had been thriving while I worried about grocery money, at the infrastructure of a deception so complete that I'd been living inside it for months without even knowing it existed. She came back that evening as if nothing had happened, cheerfully announcing her plans to film a new video about traditional curry paste preparation. When I tried to object, she reminded me of her legal rights as a tenant, her investment in kitchen improvements, her claim to the space as her established place of business. "You can call police if you want," she said with a smile that had lost all its warmth. "But they will ask why you let me set up business in your house for 6 months, why you never object before, why you help pay for equipment and ingredients if you not agree to partnership." I realized with a sick feeling of recognition that she was right. In the eyes of the law, I'd been complicit in her business by allowing it to operate, by funding it, by never formally objecting. My ignorance wouldn't excuse what looked like tacit consent. I was trapped in my own house, funding a business I despised, watching the woman I'd loved transform into someone who treated me like an inconvenient landlord. Every day she'd wait for me to leave, then film her cheerful videos about traditional cooking and independent living. Every evening she'd present me with elaborate dinners that felt like mockery. The worst part was how the performance continued even when the cameras were off. She'd still call me my love, still curl up next to me on the couch, still share my bed at night, as if nothing had changed, as if the revelation of her deception was just a minor disagreement we could work around. "You understand now," she said one night, speaking into the darkness. "This is business. We can both benefit or we can both suffer, but I'm not going anywhere." I lay there listening to her breathe, realizing that I was sharing my bed with someone who saw our entire relationship as a business arrangement, who had been calculating costs and benefits from the moment we met. Someone who could compartmentalize love and deception so completely that she seemed genuinely confused by my anger. The legal consultation was a nightmare of bureaucratic complexity and cultural misunderstanding. Thai law, it turned out, was not designed for situations where foreign retirees discovered their girlfriends were running secret businesses out of their homes. The lawyer, a tired-looking Thai man who spoke careful English, explained the situation with the patience of someone who'd seen similar messes before. "She living there 6 months, paying for improvements, establishing business with your apparent consent," he said, reviewing the documents I'd brought. "Very difficult to prove you not knowing about her work." But I didn't know. I had no idea. She was filming videos, making money, running a business. "Can you prove this? Any written agreement about use of house? Any evidence you specifically told her no business activities?" Of course I couldn't. Who makes written agreements with their girlfriend about not running secret YouTube channels? Who thinks to specify that your kitchen isn't available for commercial filming? Who documents their ignorance of their partner's professional life? "She has good case for tenant rights," the lawyer continued, "especially if she can show financial contribution to household, investment in property improvements, established, business relationships requiring stable location," all of which she could prove. The expensive kitchen equipment she'd bought, ostensibly for better cooking, actually for better filming. The utility bills she'd started paying once her channel became profitable, which looked like domestic partnership, contributions rather than business expense coverage, the 6 months of continuous residence that established her legal right to the space. What are my options? Negotiate, offer compensation for voluntary departure, or prepare for long legal battle that may cost more than resolution. How much compensation are we talking about? The number he gave me made my pension look like pocket change. Sirilawan's lawyer, and of course she had a lawyer now, probably paid for with revenue from my kitchen, was demanding compensation for lost business income, relocation expenses, emotional distress, and what they called unlawful eviction of established tenant. "But it's my house," I said, hearing the desperation in my own voice. "Yes, but Thai law protects tenants, especially when they can demonstrate domestic partnership, financial contribution, and established business operations with landlord consent." Landlord consent. That's what my ignorance had become in legal terms. Implied consent through inaction, financial support through shared expenses, partnership through cohabitation. Every day I'd left her alone in the kitchen, every grocery bill I'd paid without questioning the amounts, every piece of equipment I'd let slide without formal objection, had built the legal foundation for her claim to my space. I walked out of that office feeling like I'd been mugged by the justice system itself. Not only had she betrayed my trust and used my home for her secret business, but now she had legal grounds to demand payment for the privilege of removing her from my life. The next few weeks were a special kind of hell. Sirilawan continued filming her videos while I tried to figure out how to reclaim my own house. She'd set up a schedule that treated me like a disruptive roommate. Filming times when I was expected to be absent, quiet hours when her work took priority over my comfort, kitchen access limited to windows when she wasn't preparing content. "This is temporary," she'd say when I complained, "just until we work out arrangement that benefits everyone." But nothing felt temporary about the way she'd reorganized our shared space around her business needs. The living room had become her office, with editing equipment and lighting setups that made relaxing impossible. The kitchen belonged to her completely during filming hours, which seemed to expand every day. Even the bedroom felt different, shared, now with someone who saw our relationship as a business partnership that had unfortunately become complicated. The worst part was watching her audience grow. Every video brought more subscribers, more comments, more sponsorship opportunities. She was building an empire using my resources while I felt like a prisoner in my own retirement. Comments from viewers praising her independence, her authenticity, her inspiring journey as a single Thai woman, pursuing her dreams through traditional cooking. If they only knew that their inspiring independent woman was living rent-free in a foreign man's house, using his utilities, eating groceries he paid for, and treating him like an inconvenient business expense that needed to be managed and contained. The expat community's reaction was mixed and brutal. Some guys sided with me. They'd all heard stories of foreign men being taken advantage of by local women, and my situation confirmed their worst fears about trusting too much, too quickly. Others blamed me for being naive, for not doing my due diligence, for letting my dick make decisions my brain should have handled. "Should have seen it coming, mate," was the common refrain. "Beautiful young Thai woman moves in with older Western guy. There's always an angle." The judgment hurt almost as much as the betrayal. These were men I'd shared beers with, guys who understood the expat life, the loneliness that drove us to seek companionship in foreign countries. Now they looked at me like I was a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happened when you let yourself believe in fairy tales at our age. "Thing is," Pete said over beer one afternoon, "she's actually brilliant at it. That cooking channel? It's professional quality. She could probably make it legitimately if she wanted to." That was the part that made everything worse. Sirilawan was genuinely talented. Her videos were engaging. Her cooking knowledge was authentic. Her presentation skills were natural and charismatic. She could have built this business honestly, with my support and partnership, sharing our life together instead of erasing me from it. Instead, she'd chosen deception, chosen to use me as an invisible sponsor for a fantasy version of herself, where she was single, independent, and authentically Thai, cooking in her own kitchen with her own resources, building success through her own hard work. The Thai community's perspective was more complex and harder for me to navigate. Some saw Sirilawan as a smart businesswoman who'd found a way to succeed in the digital economy, using available resources to build something valuable. Others were embarrassed by her deception, worried that it reinforced stereotypes about Thai women manipulating foreign men. "She make Thai women look bad," my neighbor's wife told me in broken English. "We not all like her, but Farang men always think we are." I found myself caught between communities belonging fully to neither. Too naive for the cynical expats who'd seen everything before, too foreign for the Thai neighbors who viewed our domestic drama through cultural lenses I couldn't fully understand. After 2 months of legal wrangling and increasingly hostile cohabitation, we reached what the lawyers called a mutually beneficial resolution. Sirilawan would relocate her business within 6 months, during which time she'd pay full utilities and declare me as a co-owner of any content filmed in my house. In exchange, I'd receive quarterly payments from her channel revenue and wouldn't pursue legal action for the deception. The compromise felt like defeat disguised as diplomacy. I was essentially legitimizing the business that had been built through betraying my trust, becoming a partner in the deception that had destroyed our relationship. But the alternative was years of legal battles that would cost more than my house was worth, with no guarantee of a better outcome. "This is good for both of us," Sirilawan said when we signed the papers, speaking in the business-like tone that had replaced the warmth I'd fallen in love with. "You get money from my success, I get time to establish new location. Everyone wins." But it didn't feel like winning. It felt like being forced to participate in my own humiliation, to profit from the lie that had made my retirement dream into a nightmare. She moved out on a Tuesday morning in September, 6 months to the day after I discovered her channel. The house felt enormous and echoey without her presence, without the constant buzz of equipment and the purposeful energy of someone building a business empire. I walked through rooms that had been transformed by her vision and then abandoned when that vision no longer needed my space. The kitchen looked naked without her professional lighting, ordinary without her cameras and tripods and careful arrangements. The living room felt too big, too quiet, too empty for just one person. For the first time in months, I cooked dinner for myself. microwaved a frozen meal and ate it standing at the counter, looking out at the garden where frangipani flowers still dropped their sweet-smelling petals. The silence was absolute and terrible. She'd taken everything that made the house feel like a home and left behind only the shell of my retirement dream. The furniture was the same, the layout unchanged, the mortgage still in my name. But the soul of the place had been extracted, packaged into portable equipment, and relocated to serve someone else's vision of success. The quarterly payments started arriving as scheduled, modest amounts that felt more like alimony than business partnership dividends. I'd watch her subscriber count grow from my laptop, seeing her new kitchen setup, her expanded production values, her increasingly professional presentation. She'd built something genuinely impressive from the foundation of our failed relationship. In her new videos, filmed in a modern condo kitchen with better equipment and professional lighting, she occasionally mentioned her learning period when she was discovering her voice as a content creator. No acknowledgement of the 6 months she'd spent in my house, no gratitude for the unknowing support that had funded her rise to success. She'd become exactly what she'd presented herself as from the beginning, an independent Thai woman sharing authentic cooking knowledge with the world. The only difference was that now it was actually true. I started cooking for myself again, simple meals that reminded me of my life before Thailand, before Sri Lanka, before I'd learned the difference between sharing someone's life and subsidizing their performance of availability. The kitchen gradually became mine again, but it felt too big for one person, too quiet without conversation, too purposeful without the constant creative energy that had filled it during her residency. Sometimes I'd catch myself setting 2 places, at the table, expecting her to emerge from the kitchen with something incredible and complicated that had taken hours to prepare. Then I'd remember that she was across town in her new place, filming content for strangers who thought they knew her, building an audience that would never know I'd existed. The loneliness was different now. Before, it had been the simple absence of companionship that comes with retirement and age and geographic displacement. Now it was the specific loneliness of someone who'd been erased from a story he'd thought he was helping to write, who'd discovered that his presence was so insignificant it could be edited out completely without changing the narrative. I'd funded the rise of someone who became successful by pretending I didn't exist. I'd supported the dream of someone whose dream required my absence to function. I'd loved someone who'd built her public identity on the foundation of being available and unattached, while sleeping in my bed and eating meals purchased with my money. 6 months later, I'm still here in the same house, still navigating the same bureaucratic maze of visa renewals and immigration appointments. But everything feels different now. The expat community treats me with the careful sympathy reserved for men who've been publicly humiliated by their relationships. The Thai neighbors view me with a mixture of pity and suspicion, wondering what I did to drive away a woman who was clearly successful and independent. I've become more careful, more skeptical, more aware of the hidden costs that come with cross-cultural relationships in countries where the economic disparities create inherent power imbalances. I've learned to distinguish between cultural adaptation and cultural exploitation, between trust and willful blindness. The house is quieter now, but it's mine. The kitchen belongs to me completely, without filming schedules or equipment restrictions, or the constant awareness that my domestic life was being commodified for public consumption. I cook simple meals and eat them alone, and sometimes that feels like freedom rather than loneliness. But late at night, when the air conditioning unit cycles off and the neighborhood settles into its quiet rhythms, I sometimes find myself missing the energy that filled this place when it was serving someone else's vision. Missing the sense of purpose that came with being useful, even if that usefulness was based on deception. Missing the feeling of being chosen by someone young and beautiful and talented, even if that choosing was strategic rather than romantic. I thought I was living a love story. Turned out I was funding a business plan. I thought I'd found someone who wanted to share my life. Turned out I'd found someone who needed my life to disappear so hers could flourish. The retirement dream is still here. The warm weather, the low cost of living, the freedom from schedules and obligations that defined my working years. But it's lonelier now and more honest. I know the difference between being loved and being useful. I know the cost of believing in fairy tales at an age when I should have known better. Sometimes I still watch her videos, seeing my former kitchen transformed into her new professional space, watching her audience grow and her skills improve and her business expand into merchandise and sponsorships and collaborations with other creators. She built something real and valuable from the ashes of our fake relationship. I have to respect that, even as it reminds me of everything I lost. The garden still blooms, frangipani flowers still fall like sweet-smelling snow, and Thailand is still the paradise I dreamed of during those long years in Navra. But paradise, I've learned, is a place you experience alone or share honestly. There's no middle ground between solitude and partnership, no sustainable way to love someone who profits from erasing your existence. I'm 67 years old, living in a foreign country, cooking dinner for one in a kitchen that once fed the dreams of strangers who never knew my name. It's not the retirement I planned, but it's real in ways that what I had before never was. Sometimes that feels like enough, sometimes it doesn't, but at least now I know the difference.